what nonsensical times I've had. But I was apt to win at cyards, specially poker. And Trampas, he met me one night, and I expect he must have thought I looked kind o' young. So he hated losing his money to such a young looking man, and he took his way of saying as much. I had to explain myself to him plainly, so that he learned right away my age had got its growth. Well, I expect he hated that worse, having to receive my explanation, with folks looking on at us publicly that a way, and him without further ideas occurring to him at the moment. That's what started his poor opinion of me, not having ideas at the moment. And so the boys resumed their cyards. I'd most forgot about it, but Trampas's memory is one of his strong points. Next thing, oh, it's a good while later, he gets to losing flesh because Judge Henry gave me charge of him and some other punchers taking cattle. "That's not next," interrupted the girl. "Not? Why, don't you remember?" she said, timid yet eager. "Don't you?" "Blamed if I do." "The first time we met?" "Yes, my memory keeps that, like I keep this." And he brought from his pocket her own handkerchief, the token he had picked up at a river's brink when he had carried her from an overturned stage. "We did not exactly meet then," she said. "It was at that dance. I hadn't seen you yet, but Trampas was saying something horrid about me, and you said, 'Rise on your legs, you polecat, and tell them you're a liar.' When I heard that, I think it finished me." And crimson suffused Molly's countenance. "I'd forgot," the Virginian murmured. Then sharply, "How did you hear it?" "Mrs. Taylor." "Oh, well, a man would never have told a woman that." Molly laughed triumphantly. "Then who told Mrs. Taylor?" Being caught, he grinned at her. "I reckon husbands are a special kind of man," was all that he found to say. "Well, since you do know about that, it was the next move in the game. Trampas thought I had no call to stop him saying what he pleased about a woman who was nothing to me, then. But all women ought to be something to a man. So I had to give Trampas another explanation in the presence of folks looking on, and it was just like the cyards. No ideas occurred to him again. And down goes his opinion of me some more. Well, I have not been able to raise it. There has been this and that and the other. You know most of the later doings yourself. And today is the first time I've happened to see the man since the doings last autumn. You seem to know about them, too. He knows I can't prove he was with that gang of horse thieves. And I can't prove he killed poor Shorty. But he knows I missed him awful close and spoiled his thieving for a while. So do you wonder he don't think much of me? But if I had lived to be 29 years old like I am, and with all my chances made no enemy, I'd feel myself a failure." His story was finished. He had made her his confidant in matters he had never spoken of before, and she was happy to be thus much nearer to him. It diminished a certain fear that was mingled with her love of him. During the next several miles he was silent, and his silence was enough for her. Vermont sank away from her thoughts, and Wyoming held less of loneliness. They descended altogether into the map which had stretched below them, so that it was a map no longer, but earth with growing things, and prairie dogs sitting upon it, and now and then a bird flying over it. And after a while she said to him, "What are you thinking about?" "I have been doing sums. Figured in hours it sounds right short. Figured in minutes it boils up into quite a mess. 20 by 60 is 1200. Put that into seconds, and you get 72,000 seconds. 72,000. 72,000 seconds yet before we get married." "Seconds? To think of its having come to seconds!" "I am thinking about it. I'm chopping 60 of 'em off every minute." With such chopping time wears away. More miles of the road lay behind them, and in the virgin wilderness the scars of new scraped water ditches began to appear, and the first wire fences. Next they were passing cabins and occasional fields, the outposts of habitation. The free road became wholly imprisoned, running between unbroken stretches of barbed wire. Far off to the eastward a flowing column of dust marked the approaching stage, bringing the bishop, probably, for whose visit here they had timed their wedding. The day still brimmed with heat and sunshine, but the great daily shadow was beginning to move from the feet of the Bow Leg Mountains outward toward the town. Presently they began to meet citizens. Some of these knew them and nodded, while some did not, and stared. Turning a corner into the town's chief street, where stood the hotel, the bank, the drug store, the general store, and the 7 saloons, they were hailed heartily. Here were 3 friends, Honey Wiggin, Scipio Le Moyne, and Lin McLean, all desirous of drinking the Virginian's health, if his lady would she mind? The 3 stood grinning, with their hats off, but behind their gaiety the Virginian read some other purpose. "We'll all be very good," said Honey Wiggin. "Pretty good," said Lin. "Good," said Scipio. "Which is the honest man?" inquired Molly, glad to see them. "Not one," said the Virginian. "My old friends scare me when I think of their ways." "It's being engaged scares yu'," retorted Mr. McLean. "Marriage restores your courage, I find." "Well, I'll trust all of you," said Molly. "He's going to take me to the hotel, and then you can drink his health as much as you please." With a smile to them she turned to proceed, and he let his horse move with hers, but he looked at his friends. Then Scipio's bleached blue eyes narrowed to a slit, and he said what they had all come out on the street to say. "Don't change your clothes." "Oh," protested Molly, "isn't he rather dusty and countrified?" But the Virginian had taken Scipio's meaning. Don't change your clothes. Innocent Molly appreciated these words no more than the average reader who reads a masterpiece, complacently unaware that its style differs from that of the morning paper. Such was Scipio's intention, wishing to spare her from alarm. So at the hotel she let her lover go with a kiss, and without a thought of Trampas. She in her room unlocked the possessions which were there waiting for her, and changed her dress. End of chapter 35, part 1.